the R8 is officially dead. Audi's flagship sports car has now entered its twilight years with no more to be built. But for those who still want to enjoy the icon, the legend, one last time, there is hope in the form of the first generation Audi R8, the facelifted successor, and perhaps most impressively of all, this one is the £200,000 R8 GT rear-wheel drive, a special edition 333 run example marking the end of a beautiful era. Alongside its screaming mid-mounted 5.2-litre V10, Audi has blessed the GT with a motorsport-inspired design, more grip, more downforce, and fun factor to rival all but a few.
I do love this car. The engine is a masterpiece. 5.2-litre V10, naturally aspirated. How many cars use this kind of engine? I'm going to go with none, apart from the Lamborghini Huracan. This one makes 620 horsepower, 565 newton meters of torque, and it pulls. This one will do 0 to 62 in 3.4 seconds, 199 miles an hour, just shy of the double ton, and it sounds glorious all the way up. Wow. It ramps to 8,700 RPM. Masterpiece, masterpiece. Of course, this particular car's party trick is that it doesn't use Audi Quattro. It's completely rear-wheel drive, and that means it definitely knows how to let its hair down. It can send all its power to the back. A bit like that. This is an exceptionally playful car. It's the kind of Audi that Audi don't usually build. There's actually two ways to slide in this car. One is using a torque rear mode, which is kind of like a drift mode that allows you to dial in exactly how much angle you want in the middle of a corner. And the other is just to switch it off completely and do your thing. And either way, this thing is a tire shredding monster.
This is a bittersweet crescendo, but it won't come cheap. The 200 grand asking price is an astonishing 70 grand more than the standard V10 performance rear-wheel drive R8, and that difference is more than the cost of a used R8. Can anyone really justify watching all that money go up in smoke along with the tires? To answer that question, we need to rewind a few decades and take ourselves back to this car's origins.
All the way back in 2006, Audi decided it wanted to mix things up, enter the world of sports cars with this, the Mark I Audi R8. This car's mission was very simple. Audi wanted a piece of the pie that belonged to the Porsche 911 and the Aston Martin Vantage. And they were almost immediately successful. Within a week of this car being announced, they sold out the entire first year's allocation.
Customers praised the R8 for its performance, everyday usability, and relative comfort. But perhaps most of all, they praised it for its design. It was named after Audi's all-conquering Le Mans race car, but the road-going version featured a design inspired by the Audi Le Mans concept of 2003. At that time, the car seemed almost too futuristic to be true, but it quickly became a very compelling reality.
You might recognize this car. This is the very Audi R8 that was featured on Top Gear at Dunsfold Aerodrome, driven by Jeremy Clarkson when the car was first released. I can't think of a single other time this car has been featured on this track since that day, and that makes this a pretty happy homecoming. When the R8 first came out, you could pick one up for £77,000, which worked out to be around £127,000 in today's money. Fast forward a few years though, and you can pick up a used example on Auto Trader for around £25,000. That's about 15% of the price, but it's not 15% of the performance. That 4.2 litre V8 knocked out 420 PS and could do 0 to 62 in just over 4.5 seconds, flat out 187 miles an hour. Genuinely impressive performance. More impressive than the straight line acceleration though, was the handling. These cars had quattro four-wheel drive, so in a straight line, even in dodgy conditions like this, they just took off. But slightly out of character, Audi had a bit of a sense of humor with the R8. So that meant that most of the power actually went to the rear wheels. It had a almost reverse Haldex system, so 70% of torque went to the back. And that meant it was quite playful. Very playful. This manual gearbox is an absolute treat. You listen to it snacking up and down the box. It's such a joy to use. It's a real throwback. Salute the OG.
Despite its age, the Mark I R8 still feels modern, and even though this example is an incredibly well looked after heritage car cared for by Audi itself, it still feels almost new. Very well screwed down, refined, and fully capable of being used as a daily. The only clues to its age are its interior, specifically the aging sat-nav and infotainment setup. The engine, meanwhile, is still a peach, with the only criticism being that by today's standards, it might be slightly down on power. But for that, Audi had a solution.
Shortly after releasing the V8 Mark I, Audi went and stepped their game up with this, the Mark I facelifted V10. Still no turbos, but those couple of extra cylinders helped to raise the power to an astonishing, at the time, 570 horsepower. If you want one of these V10s, then it will set you back around £40,000. So a little bit more, but it's a similar situation to the V8. If you can find a decent example, then it just feels mint. Oh. And it is just astonishing to drive. It feels brand new. This particular car, as I go sideways through Hammerhead, is the R8 V10 LMX, and it's limited to just 99 examples. This car was special because it was the first production car to feature laser headlights. Audi developed laser lights to help them dominate in the world of Le Mans, to help the drivers see at night. And it's a great example of race technology filtering down into a road car. Let's be honest though, the major selling point is this astonishing V10 engine, which basically turned the R8 into a baby Gallardo. And it sounds the part too. Naturally, the quality in this car is still present and correct. It feels like a very modern car despite its age. The only thing giving it away is the technology on the inside, but the handling is still there. Just with a bit more power, these things are built to be incredibly engaging to drive.
And that power, combined with the quattro all-wheel drive system, means this middle child of an R8 might actually be the pick of the bunch when it comes to straight-line performance, despite its age. And there's only one way to find out. Line all three cars up for a drag race and fire them down the track to see whether old really can hang with new.
3, 2, 1, go! Good start by the Mark I. It's actually in the lead, but now I am. Look at this. And I'm beating the new car. I'm actually pulling off both of them. The middle V10 is an absolute animal, and I'm winning this race by a considerable margin. Wow! Look at that, nearly 160 miles an hour over the line. Sometimes newer might not be better. Wow.
On a cold winter's day, the R8 GT rear-wheel drive struggles to put its power down, and even once on the move, despite having an 85 PS advantage, it simply can't catch up. Even the Quattro using V8, which gives away 190 PS, isn't too far behind. One area where the new and final Audi R8s differ is in design. The GT is a beast from any angle. It might be the tame cousin of a Lamborghini Huracan, but it arguably out-Lambos the Lambo where looks are concerned. It features a large front splitter and aggressive aero flicks for added downforce. The sides feature lightweight wheels wrapped in sticky rubber, bigger side skirts, and carbon side blades. The rear has huge exhaust tips, a sizable diffuser, and a swan-neck rear wing helping provide twice the downforce of the standard R8.
So there are some aesthetic differences with the very last Audi R8, but you've got to ask yourself, is Audi doing enough? Are they giving a proper send-off to this legendary car? At first glance, I think the answer is probably no. I mean, it uses essentially the same naturally aspirated 5.2 litre V10. It doesn't make a load more power and a load more torque compared to what it did before. And it sounds, well, it doesn't sound any better than the previous generation car. Where's the twin turbo? Where's the manual gearbox? Where's the fanfare? Still, you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, do you? There's a reason the R8 is so successful. People love the recipe pretty much as it is. The engine response is still absolutely phenomenal. Every time you go anywhere near the accelerator pedal, it just wants to take off. Traction is a little bit of an issue, especially in these conditions, but when you're up and running, that motor just sings. That gearbox, despite being a twin clutch and not a manual, is actually brilliant to use. Really engaging and allows you to shift up and down the box with precision whenever you want, on your terms. They've tuned the gearbox software as well, so now you get a quicker response and also a slightly different ratio, which allows it to feel that little bit more urgent between third and seventh gear. It's a joy to use. I mean, the clicking from the paddles is a bit naff, but it works a treat. I've had the opportunity, the pleasure of driving this final Audi R8 on track and on the road. And I've got to say, it's an absolute treat. Usable on a daily basis, and when you get out here on a circuit, an absolute animal, an atom bomb of a car that just feels so engaging, so rewarding, no matter what you're doing, in all circumstances. And that surely is what you want from an Audi R8.
And that is all we'll ever get from the Audi R8. Its time has come. With this, Audi has ceased production, sending off its legendary sports car not with a whimper, and not necessarily with a bang, but with dignity. The speed, engagement, looks, usability, and desirability you'd expect from an R8 are all fully intact. And while we may never see another R8, at least not one quite like this, we can at least take some solace in the fact that the Mark I in both V8 and V10 forms have firmly stood the test of time and are still, to this day, just as good as we remember. If you can, pick one up, because right now at least, those early cars represent an absolute bargain. Whichever you go for, whichever you prefer, I think most of us can agree that as the light fades on the R8, this is a car that's left an indelible mark on the automotive world.